money. If Satoshis become the base layer of money, which I sincerely believe will happen, don't know the time scale, but I believe it will happen, these things are going to be so valuable, people's heads are going to spin.
Yeah.
And so, I just felt like I wanted to try and point that out in the book to people thinking about this as an investment. You just don't want to miss it.
Yeah.
And I get people's fears about it. And I have my client base in my investment management business is on the older side in general. And, they're skeptical, and understandably. And I'm like, okay, fine. I get it. I'm not suggesting you take 100% of your money and put it in Bitcoin. But what I am suggesting is you can afford to put 1%, 5%, 10%. You can afford that.
Yeah.
Even if I'm wrong and it goes to zero, it's not going to change your lifestyle. And if I'm right, and it does a 10 bagger and then another 10 bagger and then another 10 bagger, you're going to be really glad you did it.
Imagine waking up in 2035, the dollar has collapsed, governments are struggling, and Bitcoin has become the global financial standard. Banks are obsolete, traditional investments have shrunk, and those who foresaw this shift are now financial giants. If you think this is mere speculation, think again. Larry Lepard, a top financial mind, has sounded the alarm. In a recent post, he warned that each money printing cycle grows larger, and we're reaching the end game. He predicts a return to a sound money standard by the early 2030s. Governments have devalued fiat currencies into near-worthless monopoly money, and when the system finally collapses, only one safe haven will remain Bitcoin. Skeptics dismiss it, gold bugs cling to metal, traditional investors mock its volatility, and boomers call it a scam. But while 8 billion people understand gold, only a fraction grasp Bitcoin's potential. By the time they do, it will be too late. Now, let's dive into Larry's interview and hear his insights firsthand.
Absolutely. I mean, there's nothing in the world that doesn't happen without money. If Satoshis become the base layer of money, which I sincerely believe will happen, don't know the time scale, but I believe it will happen, these things are going to be so valuable, people's heads are going to spin.
Yeah.
And so, I just felt like I wanted to try and point that out in the book to people thinking about this as an investment. You just don't want to miss it.
Yeah.
And I get people's fears about it. And I have my client base in my investment management business is on the older side in general. And, they're skeptical, and understandably. And I'm like, okay, fine. I get it. I'm not suggesting you take 100% of your money and put it in Bitcoin. But what I am suggesting is you can afford to put 1%, 5%, 10%. You can afford that.
Yeah.
Even if I'm wrong and it goes to zero, it's not going to change your lifestyle. And if I'm right, and it does a 10 bagger and then another 10 bagger and then another 10 bagger, you're going to be really glad you did it, right?
Yeah.
Just like, the people who bought it at 10,000 are very glad they have it now at 100. Well, I think in 5 years it's going to be worth $1 million, and if you didn't buy it at 100, you're going to have regret. So I just think it's a point that's right. I mean, I really hope and pray that the, no internet, the dystopian world doesn't come to pass. I don't think it will. But as I've always said, gold is really useful for bribing the border guards, because I don't think they're going to have a lightning wallet, and understand how what your Bitcoin is worth. I mean, and silver coins. I got a bunch of silver coins, and I think they're very valuable for just everyday exchange, in the sense that a gold coin is extremely valuable. It's hard to do commerce with a gold coin that's $3,000 for an ounce.
Right.
On the other hand, a silver coin is $30, $40. I mean, that's a tank of gas. That's 3 chickens. That's how many pounds of beef, whatever it is. People know what it is. You know? So in terms of bearer money, silver coins are a great choice, and I think everybody should have some.
Yes.
In case there's that brief period of time where all the other forms of money aren't working. But I tend to be very optimistic, Robert. I think we're going to go into a much better world. I think we're going to make a transition to Bitcoin without incredible pain. I think there's going to be a one-time shock to people who've stored their wealth in fiat, and that's going to be unpleasant. You got a big bond portfolio. I think you're gonna be shocked. Yeah. Sadly, but that is what it is. I think the average if you look at the average person, like take a plumber. They have some savings, they have a mortgage on their house, they do well, they feed themselves. I mean, we go through an enormous monetary thing. Okay, well, their house is going to reprice in the new money. The debt that they had will probably be a lot less valuable. Their savings will probably be a lot less valuable. But if they're young and they know how to fix toilets and do plumbing shit, they're gonna be okay. They're gonna reprice whatever the new currency is, and people are gonna need that useful skill.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So it's not. Now, if you're a big wealthy guy and you've got all your money in a bond portfolio, I think you could lose a large piece of your wealth.
Right.
Bitcoin's going to succeed because it's better technologically. It's easier to verify. It's got triple entry accounting. Just in every respect. And people say the gold standard failed, and it did, partially based on technology, but also based on politics. They figured out how to create paper gold. Nixon, basically broke the gold standard. He didn't have to, but he did. But Bitcoin is a much better version of gold. It doesn't deflect. It doesn't debase. It will become the superior asset to gold, and gold will have jewelry value. That's going to take a lot of time because there are 8 billion people that understand that gold has value, and there aren't that many people that understand Bitcoin has value. So we're in this transition period between those two extremes. To answer your question, how do I orange pill gold pugs? So I generally encounter a couple of objections, and I go to the New Orleans Gold, what used to be called the New Orleans Gold Show. Now it's the New Orleans Investment Conference, and the guy who runs is a good guy, Brian London, and he's gotten much more open-minded about Bitcoin. He's had Lynn there, he's had me there, he's had Jane Lavish there, even though Peter Schiff goes every year and argues with us vociferously. I generally, a lot of people get hung up on the physicality of it all, and with those people, I go to the money as a ledger argument. You know what I mean? Look, you can't touch the money in your bank account. It's just some numerals on your computer screen, right? The cash isn't really there. Money's a ledger. It always has been a ledger. Before gold even existed, people in caves made marks, which were indicating some kind of debit and credit system of who owed who what. So money doesn't have to be physical. What are the other objections the gold bugs bring up? Well, sometimes they bring up the government's going to kill it, but the ETF kind of swatted that one away. Sometimes they bring up, it's MySpace and Facebook will beat it. As we talked about offline, that's kind of not realistic because of the fact that it took so many years to build up this immutable network, and if anyone tried to do it again, it would be very susceptible to a 51%. It's a ledger. It's a bearer ledger asset, and it's there, and you either believe in the ledger or you don't. Now. Some people say, well, the technology, and the other argument I've heard more recently is the quantum computing argument. And I've dug into that, and I've read as much as I can about it. And, I think it certainly constitutes a risk, but I think it's a very far out risk, like decades out. And I also think that, we could actually apply it to Bitcoin, and maybe there'd be a hard fork, where everyone would migrate over to the new thing that solves that problem. So I just don't worry about that. Decades. I don't have super number of decades left, so so I think I'm good. But it's look, there are risks to any choice financially, and everybody knows that. And so, I don't have all my money in Bitcoin. I don't have all my money in gold. I have some of my money in real estate, and I even have a small amount of cash just because I want to be able to take advantage of opportunities. So.
Yeah, it's all probabilistic.
Exactly.
Think about it. What if you had bought Amazon in 2000? Apple in 1997, or Tesla before its boom? Those who doubted missed out on life-changing wealth. But now, we're witnessing an even bigger revolution, the reinvention of money itself. The bet is asymmetric. If Bitcoin fails, you lose little. If it wins, you win big. Larry Lepard is shouting from the rooftops, Bitcoin is the future. The mainstream will wake up only when Bitcoin is out of reach. By 2035, you'll either be enjoying your Bitcoin-funded wealth or regretting missing the greatest financial opportunity of all time. The clock is ticking. Are you in?
Let's say critics of Bitcoin that would say, oh, they're just going to do the same thing to Bitcoin. How would you
that's a really great question. And George Gammon made a good point that there'll be paper Bitcoin in the future, and there could be. If you look at it today, there's not a lot of paper Bitcoin. You can see the number of derivatives, futures, options, et cetera, contracts out there. Compared to the total amount out there, the total amount on exchange, the total trading, they haven't done it. Recall that they've had since the 70s to perfect this gold scheme, okay? And gold is a slightly different beast than Bitcoin. Gold has never had a year where it's gone up 5x, okay? Bitcoin has, okay? So suppressing gold and then waiting for it to come back down so you can cover your shorts without taking a loss or having to print a lot of paper to cover the loss has been an easier game than with Bitcoin. Bitcoin is, it's a wilder animal from a price point of view, so they can't necessarily get their arms around it quite as quickly. But to be fair, it is somewhat of a risk. I mean, I think that a couple of things argue against it. One is the whole notion of proof of reserves, which I think River is doing a very good job of, showing. I mean, basically, we get into trouble when people start claiming say they have Bitcoin and they don't have Bitcoin.
Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, one of the things that I think has happened is GLD, which is the biggest gold ETF. I don't think they have all the gold they say they have. Okay. So people have put money into GLD. That money has not gone to buy real physical ounces. It's just money that's there. They have a fraction of all the gold they say they have, but not all of it, in my opinion. And so if that kind of thing were to start to happen in Bitcoin, if BlackRock were to start to not buy, I mean, if the auditors were in on it with BlackRock and BlackRock were taking money in for the Bitcoin ETF, but not actually buying all the Bitcoin they claim to have, that would become problematic. And I don't think that's beyond the realm of possibility, but you'd have to get the auditors in on it. And I think there's, because of Bitcoin's, your ability to do the on-chain analytics, that's another piece of this whole thing. I mean, you had double entry accounting. I mean, Bitcoin, you've kind of got triple entry accounting.
Right.
You've got independent people can see where all the transactions are. So I think it's more manipulation proof than gold in a large way. Easier to see, easier to verify, easier to move.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's completely manipulation proof. And I think it's something we always have to watch. And that's why in the book, there's a chapter in the book called Policy Response, where I basically talk about, okay, we're in a friggin' mess. How do we get out of it? Okay. And I say, we got to do this, this, and this. And then at the end of it, I say, we got to ban derivatives. And that's why. Because we don't want Bitcoin to be corrupted in the same way that gold was corrupted.
Got it. Yeah. So there's definitely new advantages Bitcoin has in this regard, and that you can have cryptographic proof of reserves, right? And it's a very lightweight, low cost informational audit, right? You can basically prove that you have what you say you have.
Correct.
That if you try to do that with gold, it's a whole different thing, right? You got to get people involved and then documenting.
Well, the perfect example, I'm sure you've thought about it, is we say we have 261.5 million ounces of gold in Fort Knox and in New York at West Point and in the Denver vault, San Francisco vault too, and that hasn't been audited since '53.
Yeah.
I mean,
there's rumors that it's all gone.
Right. I mean, occasionally, Ron Paul told me he thinks it's all gone. I mean, occasionally somebody will go in there and look at a few rooms, say, oh yeah, there's some gold here. Yeah. But is it all there?
Right.
I don't know. I mean, right?
Yeah. So there's that. That's a very major advantage for Bitcoin,
right?
In terms of not being as vulnerable to these price suppression schemes.
Right.
There's also the portability dimension, right? Like you can settle with Bitcoin, like you said, in 10 minutes, in an hour, basically with finality. If there's ever even a sniff of malfeasance, you can withdraw, move, like go to a more trusted counterparty, go into self-custody, like
all of it.
The hyper portability of Bitcoin makes it more resistant to these schemes. Where gold is like, it's in this place.
As you're seeing right now, there are people who have gold in the LBMA vaults that are asking to get it out, and they're being told they can't have it, or
wait 6 weeks,
wait 6 to 8 weeks, and maybe we'll get it for you, whatever. I mean, this, I don't know. We've seen this before, and I don't want to get way ahead of myself. I don't want to get too far out over my skis. This could all calm down. Deliveries could return to normal. Everything could be fine. Or this could become, this is the smoke, and there turns out there's a real fire, and the paper gold market is in trouble. I mean, I think that's certainly within the realm of possibility.
Well, at 100 to 1 on the low side, the trouble's coming at some point.
It feels to me that way.
Just a matter of when.
But it hasn't happened yet. I mean, this is all of these events. I mean, they're what I call kind of quote unquote critical state events. Yeah. Avalanches are critical state events, right?
Right.
A bunch of snow sitting there.
Yeah. Right.
One snowflake falls.
The hair that broke the camel's back.
Exactly. They're all critical state events. Yeah. And when they happen, and that's why I make this point in the book. I mean, it's kind of like, there isn't going to be a do-over here. You know what I mean? You're either going to, if we really do have a big monetary event, a big print, a big reset, it's a one, you're not going to say, oh, gosh, I'm sorry I fucked that up. Yeah. I want to go back and do it over again. It's going to be like, no
do-overs.
There's no do-over. Bitcoin is now it's now $1 million bid. Gold is 10,000 bid. Do you want some or not?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, pick one.
And you're going to remember where you were when that happened, right?
I think
in that case. What do you think what is that going to be like? How should we be preparing for this? Like what,
well,
it's a good thing if you're holding Bitcoin, but there's also going to be probably a lot of instability that comes along.
Yeah. And there are going to be people who are hurt and all of that. And so what I'm hoping is that we just kind of trend in that direction.
Slowly.
Yeah. Slowly and consistently. Yeah. And because I think that, society, a shock, a real discontinuous event to the upside will be, people will get hurt. Let's just face it. Yeah. I mean, people will get hurt. And yes, those of us who own Bitcoin will go, wow, look at this. I'm a lot richer than I used to be. But, all your neighbors will be hurting. The society there'll be a lot of problems with it. So I think the better way to do it is just to kind of advocate for this and move in that direction. I mean, and even if it happened today, I'm not sure it'd be a really great thing just because, although I'd really like to see the federal government fail. But we need better layer 2 solutions. Do you know what I mean? I mean, so Bitcoin, we haven't talked about this at all, but Bitcoin is winning the store value game. I mean, just crushing it, right?
Yeah. It's already won, basically.
Won it, winning, whatever you want to call it. And it's going to keep on winning. There's going to be so much winning here, they're not going to know what to do, right? But the medium of exchange game, man, I have to say, having been in the space, since I bought some in 2014, but more active in it since the 1920 timeframe, when I first started going to the big conferences and all. The Lightning Network, gosh, I wish it were coming along faster. Small things works great. $5,000, good luck. I mean, it's hard to do larger transactions. There's not enough liquidity yet. And this is why, although I shit on almost all of the crypto, I am open-minded to the fact that maybe Lightning isn't the layer 2 and maybe something else will be. Yeah. That we will all save in Bitcoin and then transfer to some other coin as a layer 2 kind of Lightning substitute. Yeah. I mean, I think that's a possibility.
Yeah, the verdict's still out, definitely.
I think it is. Yeah.
Imagine a world where Bitcoin isn't just an asset, but the backbone of the global economy. As cracks in the financial system widen, more experts agree. Bitcoin isn't just a hedge. It's the inevitable future of money. Critics argue that Bitcoin could be manipulated like gold, but safeguards like proof of reserves and on-chain analytics provide transparency. Yet, hyper-Bitcoinization, a future where Bitcoin becomes the dominant global currency, could be closer than we think. Arthur Hayes, former CEO of BitMEX, has also predicted that a financial crisis could force governments to adopt Bitcoin-backed currencies for stability. Bitcoin has already won as a store of value, but can it function as an everyday currency? Layer 2 solutions like Lightning Network are promising, though still developing. Some experts, including Lepard, believe an even better alternative may emerge. Jack Mallers, CEO of Strike, argues that Bitcoin's evolution as a medium of exchange is inevitable and will soon rival Visa and MasterCard in speed and efficiency. Lepard also references the fourth turning model, which suggests major economic upheavals occur in cycles. The cycle that began in 2008 with the banking collapse and Bitcoin's birth will likely climax by the early 2030s. What follows? A Bitcoin-backed dollar? A decentralized economy? The possibilities are endless. One thing is certain: the current system is broken. Whether or not hyper-Bitcoinization happens, financial transformation is underway. Those who ignore it risk waking up too late to act. Thanks for watching. Share your thoughts in the comments, like this video, and subscribe for more insights. See you in the next one.